right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be again. I hope all is going well. So this afternoon, or a couple hours ago, actually, I tested out a stream and put in my new power supply, and things seem to be going pretty smooth. I have, but let's see, Windows keeps losing the music. I got like, there we go. Okay. Um, I probably won't be streaming on Linux for a while. Uh, with the stream yesterday, it was so warm in here, and I think a lot of it had to do with the power supply. My phone, I use a Samsung S8 as my webcam. It works on Droid Cam. Definitely much better than my 920s I have. The 920 is a good camera a decent webcam to start out with. Really excellent if you have natural lighting come through your windows. Where I'm at, I don't either get the bright sun, uh, or it starts going into the shade. But it wasn't charging right, and it was probably charging slower than what it used. Ever do you use Android Auto or something like that, and you plug in your phone into your car, and uh either the cord or the charge, the port that you have plugged in is not charging fast enough, and your phone is drawing more than you're charging. I know this happened to me back in 2013. We took a road trip out to New York, and I didn't bring my right my decent charger with. We ended up having to stop off and buy one. Phone got so freaking hot. Well, that was happening with my S8, and it kept shutting down. So it wasn't getting enough power. And that's why I kind of guessed that I had a power supply issue with the way the stream was dying a few weeks back. The monitors going blank and that. So I got a nice, a decent uh, uh, power supply, a 650 watt instead of a 500 watt. Newer one. The other one was like 10 years old. It was probably, uh, time for it to go. I didn't buy a top line or a really like a 850 or a 1000 watt. I don't plan on upgrading this PC anymore. I think the RTX 4060 is probably the last good thing that I'm going to put into it. And either in a few years I'll buy a new, more modern PC, or I'm going to end up just stop streaming. I am getting a little bit older. I still have some good years left ahead of me. I am going to be 70 this year. Hopefully, so I got the door open today. Usually I shut it, so I get a breeze coming through. It was 86 earlier today, 86 Fahrenheit, 25 Celsius. When I streamed 2 hours ago, now we're down to 79. And what would that be? About 20 Celsius. But it's a nicer breeze coming through, and you might hear. So you can see. I don't know if you could see. Got a bird cage right here. You can see his tail. Where am I going? Right there. It's a diamond dove, and he can be pretty loud sometimes for a little bird. They're not much bigger. They're a little bit smaller actually than a sparrow. But I figured this way, he likes company. They're a social bird. They're not like parakeets or that. You can't really train them too much. And most diamond doves don't like human contact, but with my son, he doesn't care. And this is like our eighth bird. They're very fragile, but this guy's pretty healthy and he's been holding up. Unfortunately, his mate think she flew into the wall or the window one day. He'll let them fly around once in a while. And she did something to her neck. And they were pretty well mated in that. So they get kind of lonely. So if I'm usually within, he can see me, he's fine. You can see him, he's eating right now. He's a pig. They're pig birds. Fling seed all over the place. And there's a shield around the bowl with the cup with the seed in it. And you can see we got, it's got this green around it. It's supposed to catch it. No, the seed goes flying because he's very particular about the seeds that he eats. Silly bird. Well, my son likes birds. No dogs, no cats, just a bird. And at one point, we had up to 3 of them at one time, and the males go kind of crazy. The females are usually pretty quiet, and the males he's always what they call bow cooing. So hopefully he doesn't get too loud while I'm talking here. I think half the time the mic does a pretty good job. The gate I have on it does pretty well with him, but he can be pretty loud. I was gonna, after I was streamed earlier, I was gonna mow the lawn. Just still too warm. We had some good rain last week, but thankfully the lawn didn't really grow that much. It's at the point where the lawn is kind of getting ready up. There he goes. Of course, I mentioned it. You can see his tail's flicking. That's what they call bow cooing. He's got we keep a little mirror in there. Really wants to fuck himself, is basically what he wants to do. Ah, birds. So I told myself, I said, you could get like a parakeet or something. They're fun. Oh, well, I like doves, Dad. Because the year he was born, some mourning doves, we had a planter out on the front porch, and mourning doves nested in there. And doves are horrible nest builders. They are, wherever they can lay an egg, basically, they'll find a planter or something like that. They may put some grass down. They don't build nests like sparrows or robins or cardinals or anything like that. They're kind of like opportune. And we have a little cup nest in there, but like if there was a female, if there was a bowl, she would lay an egg in that. But no, we could get parakeets to have fun with in that, so. Seed all over the place. You, like walking on pebbles sometimes. Yeah, I'm talking about you. See, he's watching. So, yeah, this is just streaming again, just now, relaxing. I mentioned earlier, I took a few hours to make sure the PS you was put in right. I just took my time. There was no rush. One It's relatively easy. I've done I it's been a long time. I think I have to go back almost 20 years before I replace my last power source. But it's pretty easy. And it was a non-modular, so they're not especially great for cable management as a modular one is. And it did have a bunch of extra cables in it. So I could expand in there pretty well, and it'll be covered. I could easily do 6 SSDs. I got 3 SSDs in there now and a 2 terabyte spinning hard drive. So I could still put a few more in there if I wanted to. And the power, the connections are pretty good and very quiet. It's pretty quiet. Pretty quiet. I'm pretty pleased with it. The Chinese brand Sego Tap. Sego Tap. Sego Tap. 650 watt. Just perfect for my needs. So, like I said, Linux, I won't be streaming. Something happened yesterday. I started talking about how my S8 was overheating, so I would lose my camera, and I had to go to the side views for the webcam. So like none of my scenes would work. Well, like the hologram and all that stuff wouldn't work on those scenes. I don't have it set up for that. Um, and it was just pretty warm, so I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna shut down the computer and start it up. You know, later on. And picked up my son from karate, and I told him that, what I had done. The computer was off, and he's kept asking me for a password. I'm like, "You have a password?" He goes, "No, I've not seen this before." And sure enough, there's something with the Never OS. I have never seen this. I've dealt with uh what's it, Intram FS, uh and then doing like FSCK to kind of fix things. It's usually in the boot drive. This could be a boot issue, but it keeps asking me. It goes into emergency mode, and it's a little bit different. I'm used to dealing, even though I've been on this Arch system for a while. I'm very used to repairing like Ubuntu systems. So it's going to take me a little bit. And again, like I said, I'm not in any hurry. I did have Zorin 18 installed. Not extremely pleased with it. Sorry, Zorin people. Um, I put OBS on there. I wanted to go maybe back to an Ubuntu system for just streaming, because I can use the OBS PPA, which is very close to like a Windows install. It's just like maybe one update behind, and not a full update either. But pretty much all the people that are making plugins for OBS are also doing, not only are they doing it in Windows plugin, but they're doing a Linux, and in most cases a Mac plugin, unless it's very specific. Like I have on my Windows system here, I have Auto Starter, and where I could put in the programs I want to start for my stream. And that's Windows only. So it's on Linux. I created a script that would start all my programs needed, so I wouldn't have to click them all. It's just something really simple. Um, and I just totally lost my train of thought. But on the Ubuntu based system like Zorin is, um, it's easier actually at times to install a plugin for Linux OBS than it is on Windows. And a lot of times they package them up as a .deb package, which is like an installer. Think of it as like Windows exe, where that particular, if your Windows plugin comes in an exe format, it's just installing it where it's supposed to go. You don't have to worry about unzipping it and putting it in the right folders, which a lot of people, and I'm included, when I started with Windows and that, I put them in the wrong folders, or I get them mixed up, because like one's got to go into OBS plugin 64-bit, and the other's data OBS plugins. It could be confusing. And I had found out that I had actually two instances of um, advanced scene switcher installed. One of them was an older version. I think the one was at work, but there were files that were in there, and they would show up on the OBS log. So I cleaned that up. So in most cases, on like Ubuntu based systems, it's much easier to install plugins in that. And then forget, I'm sorry, OBS team. If I was just like did simple streaming, the Firefox, the Flatpak would be fine. But there's only about 15 plugins that are packaged up for Flatpaks. If you're a longtime Windows user and never used Linux, you have no idea what a Flatpak is. Don't worry about it. It's something that you don't have to worry about unless you decide to come over to Linux, which a lot of people are. I'm very happy with my install on Windows. It's I can have so much more and not worry about workarounds as I do in Linux. But I thought I did have a pretty decent setup going with Endeavor OS, so I probably won't get to repairing that until probably Saturday. Because tomorrow's we're gonna be doing some geoguessing, and Friday either I'm going over to my stepmother-in-law's or I'm going to my sister's. Been helping her. I was helping her paint on Monday. Spent my Memorial Day helping her paint. She's looking to sell her condo, and just because of life and that, I don't get to be with my family a whole lot. So it was nice spending a day with her. And if I can do it Friday, that would be great. So my next open time, my wife will be working Saturday morning, so I'll have all day Saturday kind of to work on to figure out what I'm doing wrong or what I need to do on my Endeavor system. No biggie. Been through these kind of problems before in Linux. It just happens. Or I shouldn't say it just happens, but things can happen. Going back to my Windows days, that was always a challenge. Not so much with Windows 11. I know people hate on it, need it really bad. But all I do is stream on it. I really don't do anything else. Maybe edit some videos or, images that I'm going to use for the stream. But my daily stuff is on Linux. So I started saying I had Zorin 18 installed, and just my son likes to be on he's got a nice laptop. He's got an HP Omen, and he'll be on that, and he'll be having all sorts of stuff. He'll have Google Chrome opened up on each monitor, and like 6 to 8 tabs open, and like of videos and stuff like that. Not all going at once, but he kind of immerses himself. So they'll be fine, if they need to get on the computer and that. So yeah, I don't know what happened when it shut down. I don't know if it was a power, combination power issue, heat issue, what was going on with the Droid Cam. Maybe something got corrupted. It happens. And in most cases, Linux is easier to fix than Windows anyway. Sometimes Windows just goes really bonky. And I haven't had that problem for a bit. Of course, out of the last 10 years, I went 7 years without using Windows at all. That my wife had a little Windows laptop that I had to keep up with Windows 10 in case, and there were problems. I remember when Windows 10 first came out, and Windows had Microsoft had kind of like cut away their testing team, and someone sent an update out that it was a bunch of people had files deleted, and then there was issue with an update, and that happened to my wife's netbook. So the Vivio book, the Asus little Vivio book, they called it a 2003 8J, has a 64 gig eMMC, 64 gigs for one, and only 4 gigs of memory. And in the first couple iterations of Windows 10 updates for it, you had to use a USB with a good size, 16 gigs or more. I think I used one that I had for with 128 gigs to run the update because it would throw some stuff on the USB and all that. After a year or so, the update process got really good that you didn't need to do that. But at one point, the the install or updating process got corrupted, and I was in an endless boot of installing or repairing, and it was just go. It was installing, then it would reboot, and then it would be repairing, and that was a fun a fun a fun thing to go through. It took me a couple of days to get that fixed. Uh, I had, of course, I had the Windows. I downloaded a Windows 10 ISO, made a USB boot out of it, and then I was able to delete, clear the hard drive, on eMMC a hard drive. All but I think one partition that was protected by BitLocker. Um, I actually don't put BitLocker on any of my stuff anymore. Uh, that was a pain, but I ended up actually having to use a version of Linux and using gparted, the partitioning manager or software, to actually remove that partition. And BitLocker really didn't, it finally cleared, and I was able to reformat the drive and then reinstall Windows 10. But it took me about 3 days, to 2 to 3 days to do it. It was a pain in the ass, a big pain in the ass. So, well, your operating systems, Windows, Linux, and I don't know so much about Macs. I don't, never had one. But the way my one buddy tells me how you pretty much, when you're updating a Mac, it's removing everything and then putting it back on, and it takes a long time. I find these days that if you're in the Linux community, they're always complaining about Windows and the updates take so long, and they really don't, not anymore. Um, or oh yeah, it wants a update in the middle of working on something and shut down. Not if you set it up right. It doesn't do that anymore. Oh, and the ads. I can't tell you the last time, the only ads I have ever seen come from like the brother printer software that I have on here, because I have a brother that's a brother printer there. Uh or from Nvidia about games. I've never seen an ad from Windows. So I don't know what I do differently, but you know, in the Linux community, it happens all the time, and it doesn't, really doesn't. But I look at like operating systems as tools for me to use. I want to do a certain thing with it, and that's it. I mean, I take no politics into it. I get tired of the tit and tat between, well, like Windows and Linux, and I don't game, so I don't look at things from that aspect. Um, but if I can use it and it works, I'm going to use it. That's it. But it's not that I hate Linux. I don't. I use it. It's my when I'm not on Windows streaming, I'm on Linux doing all my other stuff and streaming too. I may like be building something. I'll be in Windows and I'll be working on a new setup and that, and I may put on Twitch or a YouTube video or something like that, music. But I don't do a lot more on it than that. Um, yeah, it's the way it is. Oh, nice breeze coming through now, but I doing some chicken on the grill. I'm gonna take a break in just a minute to check it. I haven't left. I wrapped it in foil so it would finish cooking and that, just to keep from having to turn the oven on in the house. Um, I'm a charcoal griller, but I don't use charcoal lighter fuel fluid. I use a chimney, they call them. All right, Clark. That's good. You might hear him when I'm talking, but his Balku isn't triggering the mic. OBS has some good gate software. It's pretty good. That's nice. But so using a chimney, you stuff paper in the bottom, and then you fill it up with charcoal, and you light the paper, and it takes about it could take about a good half hour to get the coals going, but then you don't have to worry about um like that kerosene taste. There's some people that do not wait until the lighter fluid is totally burnt off. I had my sister and her husband over uh in the last year or so, and we were doing hamburgers and that, and he's like, "Oh no, you do charcoal," because he's a gas griller. There's a lot of gas grillers. I sorry, there's nothing that beats the taste of a good charcoal. And then I throw some wood chips into it too. I don't Not a full smoke when I do something, but just enough to get the flavor in there. And I guess he was at a friend of his wife, my sister's, and the guy um started cooking the burgers while the fluid was still burning off the charcoal. And uh I've been to a few barbecues where that happens, and it not only does it taste pretty bad, but the hamburgers weren't fully cooked because he was burning the outside. The heat was so high. How do you make your hamburgers on the grill? Gas or charcoal. I know I'll make my patty, and then I'll punch a hole, not a hole through it, but I'll crater the center. And usually there's two things that you can do, but usually when you do that, the juice from the meat, or the blood from that's still left in there will fill up, and when that little divot fills up, it means the bottom is kind of done. Then you can flip it over, or you can put an ice cube in there, and then when the ice cube fully melts, one, it will help keep the meat moist, but the other side is done, and you can flip it over. Are you a specialist, and do you use a thermostat, a thermometer? I've never used a thermometer. I should get a meat thermometer. There's times that, when you're cooking some meat. But I've been really good. I made ribs on Monday for Memorial Day. Um, I don't have the patience or the time. I have a Weber kettle grill, a good size one. It was bought for us when we moved into the house, so it's a number of years old. It's about 30 years old, but still work. If I Or was it a replacement? I don't remember now. I think maybe it was replaced. But it's pretty old. But it's a kettle grill, and Weber makes a pretty good grill. And the um um so it's not quite designed to be a smoker, but it'll do the job. But I don't have the patience to do a full smoke. I don't, I'm not gonna get a I'm not gonna go out and get a smoke or two. I don't want to spend hours doing it. I know it's delicious that way, but I'm just lazy. Steve, you're a lazy fuck. Um, so what I'll do is I'll actually on low heat in the oven, like around 325. I'll season up the ribs and wrap them in foil on a baking sheet that has a edge to it, and then put some water in there so it steams and tenderizes the meat pretty good, and then I finish it out on the grill with some. Uh, I put my own barbecue rub together, and I Also, I got still some wood left over. Years ago, we had a mini pear tree out front, and a storm. There was, I don't know if lightning hit it or a storm just it split down the middle. There was no saving it. And any type of fruit wood is pretty good for smoking, and it would add a nice touch to the meat. I just don't have a patience for it. But I'm going to take a quick break, and I am going to go check. I'm going to check my meat. Oh, I'm amused by my own craziness. Okay. That can turn into a good. Oh, come on. Ah. Ah. All right, one more round, and I'm gonna call it a night. Seconds before. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna start. We're gonna start. We'll do the Matrix one.
Yes. And then we'll do the train of clip.
Holy shit! Oh! Blue buses are usually in big cities in Russia, you believe? Less than 5 kilometers. Side, and someone had a good laugh. If you're lurking out there, all I can say is that. So. Oh. Oh wait, that's why it didn't come out. That was a message that I have sent out. So do this so I can make a clip. All right, so I used I think it was a version of Photoshop to take this photo from here to here. And what do you think? All right, so I'm telling you, UFOs are real. I'm really what. All right, coming out, chicken breast coming out really good, nice and tender. Ah. And not making a lot to go with it. A salad, throw on a veggie. I don't know if I'm going to do green beans or cauliflower. See, last week I made a pork loin roast on the grill. I can't make a steak to save my life, but I can make a pretty good pork. And the secret is just cooking it not, somewhat low, 350, 375 for I think I average about 45 minutes or so. But I'll usually um melt some butter and put it on that butter is a great Helps keep the juices in and makes the meat nice and tender, breaks it down a bit between pork and chicken. You know, you can't come here without talking about food. Yesterday, I put finally planted the garden. I planted, let's see, a beefsteak, a, two big boys, and a what's it called, an early girl, which is just another larger tomato, but not a real big one. A couple of cherry tomato plants, two jalapenos, a mild banana pepper. I love stuffing banana peppers with cheese and cooking them on the grill. That's so good. And then two green peppers, a red pepper, and an orange pepper. But if you grow peppers, I don't know why, but it could be from where we get them from. You know, the big box stores. This year we got our stuff from Menards. Usually it's been from Home Depot. Last year we did Lowe's. Um, there are some garden places outside of the big box stores, but they're a little more expensive. And but like when I buy red, orange, yellow peppers, they always grow green. I think they just half the time they don't know, and maybe it's just the way that they're growing. But the jalapenos, yeah, I saw I saw a I don't know if it's a I guess it's a hybrid, but it's called a Coolio Pino, and it's supposed to be a very mild jalapeno to of like maybe a green pepper. I mean, it's like, what's the point? Because sometimes you never know what you're gonna get with with a jalapeno, especially from the store. Homegrown ones are always pretty hot. I don't like I get hot ones because there you can get the jumbo ones and all that, but I just get the average jalapenos. Making between the jalapenos and the tomatoes, make some fresh salsa. We'll try to grow some cilantro. Cilantro can it could be a cilantro's a pain. Cilantro you have to like should start from seed and start a batch, and then 2 weeks later start another batch. 2 weeks later start another batch, because when cilantro it bolts, once it flowers, it's not going to grow any more leaves. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like cilantro. There's like cilantro haters of America. I don't know if they're cilantro haters of America. A buddy of mine loves Mexican food, hates cilantro. And nothing like, especially a really traditional taco, not one you make at home with a taco mix, but going to a real good taco place and getting it Mexican style, which is usually a chopped up onion and cilantro. Oh my God, that's so good. That is so good. But I always make I made a fresh batch of salsa yesterday. Because my wife she made yesterday she made pozole, and she uses my salsa, and the jalapenos that she had gotten from the store were a bit spicy in that. So I'll do some pickled jalapenos. I don't do the full pickling because I'm the only one that eats them. So it's a quick pickle, which will only last a couple of weeks, but that's enough. And then I take my jalapenos and I put in celery, onion, and carrots, like a pepper pot type deal. Oh, it's the when the carrots and the onion and especially the celery pick up that heat. Oh, it's so yummy, so yummy. Oh yeah, I also planted. I by seed though. I put in some green onions. Love a good green onion. Tried last year and they didn't grow too well. Like I said, I got plant. I have two strawberry plants. My son wanted some kind of fruit this year. Now we've been the last couple years we've had a raspberry plant that last year didn't flower or grow any vegetable, any fruit, any raspberries. This year it's flowering like crazy, so I probably didn't take care of it at the end of the season before properly. So I think with all the flowers, that means there's going to be a lot of fruit. Now I got it chicken wired off to keep the rabbits away, but the birds like their raspberries. And I have enough chicken. If they start going after it, I'll kind of just wrap the whole. I have it in underneath an old kids, not a kids play set. I built a play set for my son. My God, what 28 years ago? He was a young guy. And we've taken the swings off of it and the slide and that, and I put a bench swing where the other swings were. And I actually planned to lower the deck and have another sitting area out in the backyard so he can sit on the swing and maybe a couple of lawn chairs in there on the deck. But for the time being, I planned it because the raspberries will grow in um, a somewhat shaded area. Although that it does get it does get enough sun that the back of our house faces southwest, and oh my, I have the trees we had in the backyard we had taken down, so there is no shade in our backyard whatsoever. So until the sun starts going down, it is really hard for us to use our backyard. And we've never put in a patio. We've been here for 30 something years and never a deck or a patio. It's always next year, always next year. So I think when I'm gonna just easily, it's just a thing of removing some bolts and that, and then letting the platform come down and then rebolting it, and then I could put a like a pergo type roof over it or something like that to supply some shade in that area. And front of the house is fine. I want to put a bench on the front porch. I would like to take right under our front window stone or something like that as a sitting area. And our houses don't sit very close to the street or the sidewalk, but it's enough to see neighbors and say hi. And my wife doesn't want that. It's like, oh, it would be just nice to sit out there in the shade when it's cool. Let's get some more iced tea. Anybody got a garden going? You got a garden going? And if you're lurking, please say hi. Just say hi. Get some first words in there. Say, Steve, you suck. Or just tell me what be going on, what's happening. Again, if you're watching on YouTube and you're wondering what this is, it is a music player. I'm playing music, but the music can only be heard on Twitch. Because, here over on Twitch, we're able to play some good music. Now, if you watch the VOD later on, you won't, it's blocked out, just like, um, just like on YouTube. But if you're on YouTube, come on over to Twitch, So Monday was, because I'm thinking about how long I've been streaming and things like that. Monday was my 8th anniversary of posting my first video on YouTube. Not that it's any great feat or something like that, But I started doing Linux content after I got into Linux. I got into Linux in 2015, but it wasn't until 2017 that I set up a YouTube account, my Steve's very own, like 12 years ago. I've been on YouTube for, I could never I was so afraid. And it's a scary thing. And uh I don't particularly go by a script. And I can talk like when I'm in, like narrating it, I end up sometimes talking really slow. And I've gotten comments that, make the video 2 times or at least 1.5 times faster. You'll thank me later, kind of thing. I'm like, oh, well. But I was using a Linux distribution that was called Peppermint OS. And it was what we called in the Linux world as a Frankenstein distro because it had all sorts of parts from other types of distros in there, and it just worked. And the developer was a hell of a guy. Mark was something else. He was very helpful and friendly. And unfortunately, in 2020, he passed away. Young man, he was in his 40, maybe even in his 50s, but got sick. And that's, on Linux, you have a lot of people that, well, 1 man, 2 man distros and all that, not a lot of corporate setups. Fedora is somewhat corporate because Fedora, they do testing for Red Hat stuff, and Red Hat is, a big server and all that. But most distros are kind of put together by teams and that. But this Peppermint, you can, with Linux, you can customize it to your heart's content. And I played with mine and made mine look like Chrome OS at that time. And I was a big fan of Google Plus, especially, shared a lot of images. I take a lot of pictures. And I'm sorry, I have not found, I mean, you could do it on Blue Sky, you could do it on X, although X is a dumpster fire. And I guess um what's the Facebook bought it? Not Imager. I don't use it, so I forget about what it is. I don't get into that. But Google Plus was nice and some good blogs. And I posted a picture of this, and someone said, "Hey, can you tell me how you did that?" I said, "I'll do you one better. I'll make a video." So Monday was my 8th anniversary of posting my first video, which I had privatized all my videos from before, especially the Linux stuff, because it is somewhat dated. There are some things in XFCE that you can still do with it, but a lot of stuff has changed, and a lot of it was distro hopping, or not, distro reviews, and who needs to see what Ubuntu was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever. But I did a kind of a lot of help videos on that, and then I would stream. I was working full time. I never got monetized. I just never worked super hard at my channel. It was just a hobby and a personal thing for me. But it did do a lot of good things for me. I was always trouble, and you catch it. I mumble and stumble and stuff like that. But I used to be really bad. And it helped me in ways that I never thought it would. Even my wife, at first she's like, you're streaming? And then one day she watched me after, a year or so, and she had watched while I was streaming. And she's like, wow, I can see the difference. I can hear the difference. And it was a big difference at work too. I became more of a go-to person, and had helped facilitate meetings and stuff like that. So if you're thinking about doing a video, just kind of do it. I've gotten so much shit over the years, but you know what? At least I tried it. The person that's kind of putting me down or maybe putting others down, where's their videos? You know, there are people that are just gonna pick on you to pick on you. That's life. Don't let it stop you. And then you'll have stuff, it also a vlog. I'm gonna start going because come October, beginning of October will be my 8th year of starting to stream on YouTube with Lennox stuff and that. And then I would, have kind of a talk show and on Sundays. It was called the Sunday Lennox Coffee Clutch. Now I just have the Sunday Coffee Clutch. And I just got kind of tired of that kind of certain format. And I didn't, because you would have like in Lennox, there's several streamers that have an open format and anybody that could join, whether they're in Discord or on Zoom or something like that. And you can't always trust, not that they're bad people, but that I, I I can't go on one of these and not say nothing. And if I have nothing to say, what's the point of just taking up space and uh um data, you know? But if you are looking at stream, I mean the whole streaming might be going away, but Twitch is still fun. You can, I'm not huge in any way, shape, or form, but I do have a lot of friends around the world, you know, to the point that my own family, my own family doesn't give a shit. They don't. I think they may have someone in there might have watched me one or two times. My brother was a little bit younger than me, but he does, what? You're streaming? Oh my God, you know. And close friends, I have a couple that will pop in one from time to time. But a lot of my friends, oh, yeah, you're doing what, Steve? But then I do have there's some people around the world that seem to enjoy me and enjoy my company as much as I enjoy theirs. Yes, I'm the one that's chatting and all that, and they're in the chat room. But, a lot of followers still, in the States, but then England, Spain, Germany, Norway, Sweden, India, South Africa, um, Indonesia, Australia, might, Philippines, Japan, where else? Brazil, couple, in Brazil, Costa Rica, outside some spaces in Central America and all that. And it's really cool hearing how they're, what they do in their part of the world and stuff like that. So if you're thinking about it, just go ahead and do it. And you don't need, if you're not monetized off the bat and, you know, don't be one of those. If I like taking pictures. I've never gotten a super good camera. I still have a camera my wife and son bought for me for Father's Day, God, 20 years ago. It's a Canon SX30. So it's got 30 time optical zoom. It's what they call a bridge camera. You can't replace the lenses, but it's got a 30 time optical zoom on it. Um, and a lot of settings to it. It's kind of hard to get like a bokeh style picture on it because you can't really change it. There's certain ways you can do it. But with the software that Canon uses, there's a hack out there that you put on either USB that you save the pictures to, and you can do a update, a um not a BIOS update for the camera, but like a software update. But it kind of unlocks because they use that the processor that's in that camera they actually use up into their higher end cameras, and it unlocks the stuff that's locked in it, and you can do super slow mo and a bunch of other stuff. You can do raw photos with it and that. But how many times I hear people, oh, if I had a better camera, I would take better pictures. And that could be true, but if you don't train yourself to take decent pictures with whatever you have, you're not going to take good pictures with a super expensive camera, right? And then everybody these days, what they use is smartphones. You got the Google Pixel, it's got a great software, photo software on it. I've been going out for walks every couple of weeks, and I go to a forest preserve, and I've been taking pictures there, and something that I might use for wallpaper and that. But we're all used to this. There's a photographer that I follow online, and he talks about that too. He talks about like the early days of camera with the old box camera, and how hard it was to take pictures with that, because you had to set it up and all that. And then World War II happened, and then someone developed or created the 35 millimeter film and the 35 millimeter film cameras, which at the time was thought of as a step down in photo quality compared to these box cameras and that. But what it did is a lot of news, press and all that carried these 35 millimeters and into war. And we saw pictures from the war that we've never seen before. But now jump years ahead, and then the smartphone comes out. And I've noticed this. If I have my big camera with me and I want to take some nice pictures, I got a nice flash for it and a couple other accessories to work with it. So I could take even much better pictures than that. But you go to a party and I see the big camera and they freeze and you get sometimes the worst pictures at a party. But what's happening? Everybody's got one of these. So if they're snapping pictures, everybody's used to it and everybody's natural and all that. And this photographer had likened these to the 35 millimeter that came out there. I digress. I was talking about Google Plus, and that's where I was, putting up most of my photos and that. But just start streaming's the same way. You don't need a real expensive, like, oh, I have to get all this Elgato stuff and an Elgato mic and a Elgato deck and this and that and a digital camera, the OS bot. I mean, I started out, I got two 920s that still work. There's that one there. Oops, wrong one. And this one over here, so I can get some side views. And if there was a bright sun or like earlier today, they weren't looking good. And then this camera is my S8. So these were like $54. I mean, this one, the first one, 920, was maybe a little bit cheaper. I bought my second one for $54 from Micro Center, just to have two of them. But they weren't, even with the lighting, they weren't doing what I wanted, the quality in that. Well, I retired, and for my retirement gift, my wife bought me a Pixel 8 Pro. They didn't want to give me anything for my S8 because it kind of has this cracked screen. But you know what? Screw you. I'm going to keep it. And Droid Cam is a great app and a great plugin for OBS. So now I have a high quality camera that looks pretty good. Takes a while to tweak the lights. Decks? Who needs Elgato decks? I have, can I show this here? Down just a little bit. Ew. I have 2 tablets. So this tablet is running Touch Portal. And you can customize it. I'll show you. It works with you can see it up here. You can add more buttons. You can shrink these buttons. I can add so much stuff to this. I just have my main scenes out here, and then I have a lot of my sound bites on here. I have it to where my NVIDIA background remover. I don't know if I can get the background remover to work this way. You got to be pretty close to the cam. Probably more this way than the other camera. $14.99 for unlocking it completely for life. And as long as like whatever, if you use a bunch of Android stuff and you have your, it's Joe at google.com and it's on your phone, I can move it and add it to my phone. And it doesn't cost me anything extra. And I can do different pages on here, but I only do the one. I don't need much of anything else. But I could shrink the buttons at a whole lot more. And there are a lot of things that you can also use this with, like Photoshop, GIMP, YouTube Music, Spotify, Twitch, all that kind of stuff. I needed a new tablet. I had this Samsung S2, Galaxy S2. Long in the tooth, Windows, Android 7. Well, got Google Chrome on here. StreamerBot has a web page that you can turn into a deck. So I don't need to have, here's StreamerBot. I actually don't need to have this up because I don't need to go in and run things by a test. I just have a button that I can press here.
What a boomer.
Yep. And here's Karen. I know Karen. She just hates when I talk so much. She doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. So the deck for StreamerBot is a web page. You just, sign in through, StreamerBot and you're able to set up a deck for your StreamerBot actions. And then have the deck here to change your scenes. I have just all my major scenes up here. If I needed to start something recording, I could. And my going away scene. But I always wanted like a soundboard. I could do so much more with this than that. But if you didn't want to pay for it, you can get there's something called Stream Control. And Stream Control I used for about a year, but I did donate to the creator. But at the time you couldn't customize it. And I started hearing a lot about Touch Portal. The only difference with Stream Control is when it's on your tablet, you see it. You don't see it on the stream, but there's an ad that runs at the bottom, which is nothing big. But I threw some money towards it, and got the ads taken off. But it was full page, and you couldn't really customize it really well like you can with Touch Portal. This is awesome. Monitors. I have 3 monitors. Let's see. Can you my tablet? So right here's my S8. This monitor I built out of a laptop. It was a laptop, 17-inch monitor. I just bought a controller for it. Put a box frame. If you look at it closely, it looks like crap. But I bought over the years. It took me a while. I bought two, one other monitor. So I have a 17 inch, 25 inch, and 27 inch. I have improved, and gotten better computers, PC, laptops. Laptops are kind of to stream with. You could do it, but a lot of stream about stuff, unless you got something like an Omen or something like that, forget about it. It's going to drop a little bit tomorrow. I could do the lawn tomorrow, 74. Nice. It'll be a pretty day out tomorrow. So start small, start simple. You don't, what you do need, learn about sound. It took me a while. Boy, my earlier streams, I had, I normally don't wear my big one. I had stopped using my Bluetooth. I'm on Bluetooth today. I plugged it in because you can also plug this one in. But I got the little pods too. So this is Soundcore. This is H30, and then I have an H20, which you can't see. But I was having problems with Bluetooth power and that, and things were messing up. But now I'm got the new power system in that. But I had, I wouldn't use unless I really, really had to. I wouldn't use the mic from these. But I had was it a Logitech headset with the mic on it? I knew nothing about setting up. I think I may have had a limiter or something on there. I know a streamer friend of mine prefers that over this because, I might sound different if I'm not close up, but I don't care, But it needs to sound good. As long as it sounds good to you, we're good. The cameras, people may watch because a lot of times they listen instead of watching. And if you don't sound, you can look great, but if you don't sound good, they don't want nothing to do with it. So learn about a mic. This is a Fifine mic, a 620. I'd have to look. I know I have it in my list on YouTube. But I bought this shortly after I started streaming. I went through a lot of online reviews and that, and the Fifine kept coming up, and at the time it was $69. And it's still going strong. It's just a USB mic. It's not an ALR. Is it ALR? But just do it. Go on and just do it. Just try it. And I have to chuckle when I'll see someone post on OBS. I need to learn how to stream. I need to make some money. You know how long it took? Took me over 2 years to become a affiliate. But you see the ads on YouTube. No, I'm sorry, on Twitch. I'm not monetized. I've never been able to get above 1,000. 860, 864, 65 followers on YouTube. You need over 1,000. I didn't work hard enough. Twitch makes it easier. But don't expect to make tons of money. There's only certain streamers that can do that. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Doesn't mean you don't try or you don't go out and do it. What have you got to lose? They might laugh at me. They won't. Go ahead and do it. Well, you always remember the bad stuff. I've had, my first stream, my very first stream, totally. I had 5 people, I think, show up, and 3 of them were trolls. I was devastated. No, it's like I knew it would be something. I knew it was a work in progress. I mean, outside of maybe some people lurking, no one's talked in the chat. And I know there's a lot of big streamers on tonight. So I get it. But some people will watch this later and comment on it. But talking the whole time, this is where you really got to shine. You have to really just be able to come up with things to talk about. Not, I don't want to say it's not relevant, but it doesn't matter what you think. If you can just keep talking, because there's nothing worse than you just say, oh, okay, I'm live here and no one's showing up, so why talk? Because there's lurkers. I will have more people lurking when the stream results come down from Twitch than sometimes that are chatting in the stream, and that's what happens. People just they want to listen. They maybe want to just listen to something, and you happen to be it, or they're checking you out the first time, and they might not watch you the whole stream, but they're there. And they'll eventually pop in and say something in that. So you keep talking. You just keep talking and talking to those people and they're there. Whether you want to be a VTuber or have an image of something, if you don't want to, oh, I don't want to show my face online. Oh, we're all scared. Oh, no. Let's do it. People don't particularly want to see just an image. They're if they're gonna come and they've been to your stream before, they're gonna come back for you. They're not gonna come back for an image. And I know a couple of streamers that do that. And then, I had to walk away. I got a break scene, but then I'm gonna go get another glass of water or a beer or something. And all you see is, the streamer, his image, not even his image, but the name of his channel or whatever. And then when, could be a little bit better than that. I know the streamer for a long time, so I will stick around. But most people, if you're not talking or you walk away and you don't have a break scene or something like that, they're not going to stick around. They have no idea when you're coming back. But for me, I'm glad I did this. It made changes in my life that affected me in so many good ways, especially when I got towards retirement. In the last couple of years, it helped elevate me, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of doing that. And you should be too. Ah, all right. Well, I have to go get the stuff off the grill. I just had it warming now. I gotta put some things away. Waiting for my wife and son to come home so we can have dinner. It's late. We have late dinner. Actually, my son ate already, but he's got, what is he got? 2.5 hours worth of karate tonight. He's a fourth degree black belt, so his first classes, and he's got 3 classes on a Wednesday night. But good for him. He he is instructor, learning how to be an instructor in his first class, and then he's got classes for himself then, long Wednesday night. And my wife just goes and hangs out, and that she works all day. My wife is still working. She's younger than I am. I have a trophy wife. She's 8 years younger than I am. So she's not going to retire anytime soon. And she's like the rest of her family, she's going to be working until into her 80s, but that's fine. I know she plans on retiring in about 6-7 more years, but she'll keep working. It's fine. But yeah, look at straight. You know, start with what you got, and move up from there. And as you know, if someone donates to you, or as you get, you know, depending on your age or whatever, if you got money to spare, you know, go ahead, spend a little money. You know, for Christmas, you know, I don't like spending a lot of money, but you know, my wife, she always has. Do you need anything for streaming? And that could be a loaded question. Yes, I do. I got, you know, the RTX 4060 because I wanted to use, you know, I wanted to be able to have a background remover. I take a picture, but I tell you, that's a difference. I take a snapshot from OBS, that's that. And then this is live as it gets, well, it was lighter out at the time when I did that. Work on your lighting. I usually have a background lighting, but I didn't need it at the time. But so I can use the NVIDIA stuff. I don't have an AMD. NVIDIA on Linux is kind of like, yeah, sometimes. And you can't get the background remover stuff on Linux. The NVIDIA AR stuff. No. Start somewhere. Just go ahead and do it. Start practicing. Later on, maybe sometime during this week, I'll rewatch. I look for, did things work? Did things not work? How was my sound? I know too many people. I know I won't. I don't rewatch my streams. Or I don't rewatch my videos. How are you going to improve? You going to wait for that person to say you suck, or you know, hey, you did a good job? You'll know if you did a good job, or you know if you did a bad job. If you're cringing while you're watching, you know, but you take that. You know, don't watch right away after a stream. Just watch later on. What I do. But anyway. All right. So if you were out there lurking, I appreciate you know, watching the stream. Please leave a message on YouTube or something like that. It would be great. You can reach out to me anytime. Join my Discord. I do a lot of stuff in a way with StreamerBot. I create most of my own stuff. I do use others. I think one of these streams, maybe next Wednesday, I'm going to do a tribute stream to all the streamers and people that created tutorials and that helped me on my journey here, that may be able to help you. So, computer, time to say goodbye. All right, so there is SiriBot is going to show up, and Steve Marino Robot's going to show up. Oh, that's right, Tony, and oh, Donnie. Oh, that's from earlier. Donnie, did I miss you? And Tony. All right, tomorrow will be Open Guesser. We've been having fun with that. It's the open source free version of GeoGuessr. As I don't want to pay monthly for GeoGuessr. I'm sorry. But Open Guesser, it's been a lot of fun. So join us tomorrow. Look for my stream tomorrow. 3:30ish Central Time, US. Bye.